Hello, children. Today we are going to do a poem from your book, The First Flight. Poem number 3, A Tiger in the Zoo by Leslie Norris. Now let's get a brief idea about the poem. The title, A Tiger in the Zoo, clearly indicates that the poet is talking about a tiger living in a zoo. However, the poet here also describes and compares the difference between a tiger living inside a zoo and that of a tiger living freely in the jungle. A tiger living inside a zoo has limited freedom and cannot display its true characteristics, whereas a tiger that is free and living in the jungle is able to display all its true characteristics and is a free animal. And this is what brings the beauty in this tiger. So let's start the poem. As we all know that the poem contrasts a tiger in the zoo with the tiger in its natural habitat. The poem moves from the zoo to the jungle and back again to the zoo. So we find a lot of imagery here, and the poet is trying to give beautiful images symbolically representing a tiger's true characteristics. Stanza 1. He stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage on pads of velvet quiet in his quiet rage. In the first line, the word stalks means to follow and vivid means clear. So in the first line, the poet gives a very beautiful image of a tiger stalking or following something, and its beautiful black stripes on its orange screen. The second line suddenly brings us down to another image of a tiger inside a cage. So there is a contrast between the first and the second line. The few steps indicating the limited space of the tiger inside a cage, and the tiger tries to make the most of it. On pads of velvet green. Now, pads here means the paws of the tiger. The tiger is a soft footed animal, and the poet tries to use a metaphor here to compare the paws of the tiger to the soft velvet material. So, the tiger being a soft footed animal, we cannot hear the tiger walking by. This is what is velvet quiet. In his quiet rage, the poet here uses another poetic device called oxymoron. An oxymoron is a poetic device where two opposite words are used together. One may be an adjective like quiet here, and another may be a noun like rage here. The tiger inside the cage had a quiet rage, anger. Rage means anger inside him. He was quiet, however, there was a lot of frustration in him because he was locked inside a cage. So the rhyme scheme in the first stanza is A, B, C, B. The poet here also personifies the tiger in the first line by using he. In the first line, we also see the use of consonants, the repetition of consonant sounds in a particular line. In the line stalks, he's, and stripes, the sa sound is repeated. We also see the use of the poetic device called assonance, the repetition of vowel sounds. Words in his vivid stripes, the I sound is repeated. In the second stanza of the poem, the poet tries to bring a contrast from the first tiger in the zoo to the second. Actually, he's telling here that what the tiger in the zoo should actually be doing. He should be lurking in shadow. So this tiger should be hunting in the forest. His expert hunting skills should be seen clearly, and he should be sliding through the long grass, hiding himself from the prey. And then he would be jumping on a plump deer near the waterhole where plump deer pass. So we generally see animals gathering near a waterhole, and this is when they are hunted. And a tiger, in all his form, in action, jumping on the deer, is giving us a very clear imagery. The poet is using strong imagery here, where we can really visualize a tiger in action. The poet uses the poetic device enjambment here in this stanza. The second line continues and ends up in the third line without any punctuation marks in between. The poet uses another poetic device called alliteration in the last line. The words plump, pass, the pa sound is repeated. In the third stanza, the poet again narrates how a tiger in the zoo should actually be. He should be snarling around the houses at the jungle's edge. Now, the word snarling here means the angry roar of the tiger. This angry roar again signifies that the tiger is trying to mark his territory by scaring the villagers, again giving an indication that he does not want them to interfere in his habitat. The poet uses the poetic device called onomatopoeia, which means the use of soundboards. The word snarling is a soundboard and is an example of onomatopoeia. Baring his white fangs, his claws terrorizing the village. The poet here tries to bring out the real fear of the tiger. Baring means showing and fangs means canine tooth of the tiger. This is a very scary image and it can really terrorize anybody. So this is what a tiger should be like: his real personality, his fearsome appearance, and his majestic looks. In the fourth stanza, the poet brings us back to the tiger in the cage. But he is locked in a concrete cell. He is strength behind bars. Majestic tiger now can no longer show his skills of hunting nor his fearsome majestic appearance. His strength is of no use because he is locked behind bars, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. And he is trying to just walk around in the cage and ignoring visitors. Tiger is so helpless that it could do nothing but walk around the cage and ignore the visitors because he knows that he could do nothing and the visitors would never be scared of him even if he snarls and growls here or show his fearful fangs. The last stanza, that is the fifth stanza, is quite an interesting one and it ends up in a very meaningful way. He hears the last voice at night, the tiger as it lies in his cage. He is all, conscious about his surroundings. The sound of the patrolling cars that moves around busily, and the tiger also is busy at something. He keeps staring at the stars, his brilliant eyes staring at the brilliant stars at night. Now, this is quite a beautiful image of a tiger caged in a cage, and it again shows that the tiger looks up to the sky and has hope on God that one day he would get his freedom. The last stanza of the poem not only shows a strong emotional feeling of sadness, but also it has a lot of hope. The tiger staring at the stars at night as if praying to God that he would get his freedom and one day be free to roam around in the forest and be himself.